Hello and very warm welcome at Amish Shackle 5858. I am Amish Shackle. Foreign news have been reported by American, European, Asian, African, Australian news channels and the news agencies. So please, let's go to the headlines.
On this Friday night, manhunt over.
Ryan Wedding tormented several people and several families that will never be the same.
How the former Canadian Olympian turned fugitive is back behind bars. A polar vortex warning for millions of Canadians.
We should get warmer already.
Where another brutal blast of winter weather is headed. Boosting Arctic security, what Greenland says it's capable of. Plus beefing up in the extreme cold.
If you see the frost on the backs of the cows here, that's actually a good sign.
One farmer's goal to keep his cows comfy.
Global National. Reporting tonight, Colleen Christie.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Former Canadian Olympic snowboarder and alleged drug kingpin Ryan Wedding is now behind bars in the U.S. The BC man had been at the top of the FBI's most wanted list, accused of running a multinational drug operation and masterminding a string of murders.
And just to tell you how bad of a guy Ryan Wedding is, he went from an Olympic snowboarder to the largest narco trafficker in modern times. He's a modern-day El Chapo. He is a modern-day Pablo Escobar. And he thought he could evade justice.
Wedding was arrested in Mexico, where he was believed to be in hiding for more than a decade, working with the notorious Sinaloa drug cartel. Toria Isri has our top story.
This California tarmac marks the end of the line for Canadian Ryan Wedding and the conclusion of an international manhunt. The alleged cocaine kingpin was flown to the U.S. from Mexico and led away in handcuffs by FBI agents.
To find a guy who's been on the lam for multiple years for some of the most egregious crimes on planet Earth takes an interagency-wide effort.
U.S. and Canadian authorities announced the arrest of one of North America's most notorious fugitives, who spent 10 years on the run.
We can proudly say that our communities, our countries are much safer with the arrest of Ryan Wedding.
FBI Director Kash Patel offered few details about the arrest or whether anyone received the $15 million reward for information leading to his capture.
To safeguard the integrity of the ongoing investigation, we will not go into that.
A Mexican official posted photos on social media from a meeting with Patel, saying the FBI director left the country, taking with him a Canadian citizen who voluntarily surrendered yesterday at the U.S. Embassy. 36 members of Wedding's alleged criminal network have also been arrested. In the course of the police investigation, officers seized a $15 million Mercedes, $40 million worth of motorcycles, valuable art and jewelry, and a mountain of drugs.
Our collective efforts led to the seizure of more than 2,300 kilograms of cocaine.
He's also accused of ordering the murder of a Canadian informant in Medellin, Colombia, who is set to testify against him.
Ryan Wedding tormented several people and several families that will never be the same. But today, they get the justice that they sought.
Before his arrest, Wedding had not been seen publicly since 2024.
David Muir, ABC's World News Tonight, America's most watched newscast. Now streaming same day with all the breaking news of the day on Disney Plus. Most watched, most trusted. Now on Disney Plus every night.
Tonight, the breaking news on this Friday night, nearly 200 million Americans bracing for this major storm, heavy snow, dangerous ice, freezing rain, and brutal cold. At least 17 states already declaring emergencies tonight. The massive storm building in Texas and Oklahoma, stretching 2,000 miles across the south, into the Carolinas, right up into the Northeast. Washington, D.C. to Philadelphia, up to a foot of snow, possible in New York City and Boston. And because of the ice, millions told to prepare for possible power outages. Then the dangerous, life-threatening cold coming in across much of the country right after this storm. Lee Goldberg has the forecast, the potential ice and snow totals, depending on where you live, and we'll go through it. Also breaking as we're on the air tonight, a massive protest now underway at this hour against President Trump's immigration crackdown in Minnesota. Tens of thousands in the streets, hundreds of businesses shutting down, closing in protest over ice. Tonight, one of the FBI's most wanted now under arrest, alleged drug kingpin and former Canadian Olympic snowboarder Ryan Wedding, captured, surrendering to authorities, accused of shipping tons of cocaine into the U.S., more than a decade in hiding and where he was finally caught. Tonight, President Trump igniting a firestorm with America's closest allies after the president said the U.S. has never needed NATO, saying of the war in Afghanistan after 9/11 that they stayed, quote, a little off the front lines. More than 450 British soldiers died in Afghanistan, what the British Prime Minister is now saying tonight. This evening, the arrest after a judge and his wife are shot through the front door. Now we learn one of the suspects was allegedly at their door days earlier, saying he had a food delivery. They said they didn't order any. Authorities say he came back days later and then shot right through the door. Police investigating the killing of a former NFL player found dead at a homeless encampment. Alarming video tonight showing a UFC fighter collapsing, falling face first, just seconds after his weigh-in. And tonight, 4 days after winning the national championship, college football star Fernando Mendoza and what he's revealed.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening. We begin tonight here with the breaking news.
So while Bovino's cracking down in Minnesota, House Republicans turning the heat up on Ilhan Omar. They want to know how she got all that money.
What your response is to the Oversight Committee launching an investigation into your net worth, you and your husband's net worth. They're claiming that it's risen rapidly. What's your response to what they're saying?
House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer. All right, Mr. Comer, you were in banking before politics, right? So she suddenly, in 1 year, after being worth a few $1,000s, is now worth $30 million. Have you ever seen anything like that?
No, and the way the financial disclosure forms are, there's a big variation. But here's what we know: she went from zero to anywhere between $6 and $30 million in a year. Now, why? Is that relevant? First of all, I don't know many people that go from 0 to 30 without having a legitimate business. Her husband is in some type of finance business, but we don't know what it is. It doesn't appear to be private equity. It doesn't appear to be venture capital. So we just have questions. What exactly is the business that you're involved in? It was kind of like the same questions we asked Hunter Biden that he never could answer. But then, you know, she won't answer any questions. The ethics committee is supposed to investigate members. We're not supposed to investigate individual members, but this business is in her husband's name. So we can investigate her husband, and we are going to do that because we're, as you know, in the middle of this Minnesota welfare fraud. And there's been a lot of accusations about a circle of influential Somali Americans that are benefiting from these financial scams in Minnesota. Her name is on the list. Now, she's going to get due process. I don't know if she's guilty, but what I know is she went from 0 to anywhere between $6 and $30 million in a year, and she won't even answer a simple question like you saw there. What did you do?
I mean, it looks very suspicious when you have millions of this Somali cash just flying all over Minneapolis with no scrutiny whatsoever. Wasn't there also a vineyard involved here? The husband's involved in the wine business.
Yeah. You know, there's a thing called money laundering where people have businesses and they deposit, lots of cash. Again, I'm not accusing them of any wrongdoing, but she should answer a simple question. If any member of Congress is asked what business their family's involved in, I've never seen one fail to answer.
Hello, you're watching Sky News. I'm Nick Croce. Here are the headlines. Donald Trump sparks outrage from politicians, veterans and royalty. The disparaging comment about NATO troops who served in Afghanistan.
I consider President Trump's remarks to be insulting and frankly appalling.
Duke of Sussex, who served twice in Afghanistan, says sacrifices made need to be spoken about truthfully and with respect. Also, three-way talks get underway between Russia, Ukraine and the United States for the first time since Putin's invasion nearly 4 years ago. Plus the ticket clock for Andy Burnham, as the Greater Manchester Mayor is given a deadline of today to decide whether he wants to try to make a return to Westminster. Hello, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Sir Keir Starmer has issued his strongest attack yet on Donald Trump after the US president claimed British troops were a little off the front lines during the war in Afghanistan. The Prime Minister called the comments insulting and appalling, his anger echoed by Prince Harry, who called for the sacrifices made by troops to be treated with respect. Molly Malone reports.
Trooper James Munday was described by his colleagues as a rising star, an exceptional soldier who was killed in action in a blast during a routine patrol in Helmand in 2008 after serving with Prince William and Harry.
Everybody was clapping and we were going, Munday! Absolutely proud of him.
His mother Caroline says President Trump's comments suggesting NATO forces avoided the front line are an insult to his bravery.
I actually couldn't believe it. It was just totally insulting to all of the memories of our lost soldiers. They were there on the front line, and the minute he called us up, we were there with them. Absolutely disgusted with the remark.
In a statement, Prince Harry, who served on 2 frontline tours, spoke of friends that he lost in the war and the many thousands of lives that were changed forever. Those sacrifices, he said, deserve to be spoken about truthfully and with respect, as we all remain united and loyal to the defence of diplomacy and peace.
Africa News. The news.
Residents in Mozambique are on high alert as crocodiles have started to appear across towns amid heavy floods. The animals are responsible for at least 3 deaths in the country. According to a UN official, as a result of high river levels, crocodiles in the Limpopo River are able to reach densely populated areas that are now submerged. The Limpopo River flows from South Africa to Mozambique. Heavy rains have battered parts of southern Africa over the past month, unleashing flooding and claiming more than 100 lives in Mozambique, South Africa and Zimbabwe. Thousands of homes, as well as infrastructure including bridges, schools and health facilities, have been destroyed.
A South African court has rejected an attempt by the country's Heritage Authority to stop the sale and export of items linked to Nelson Mandela. The Supreme Court of Appeal ruled that the South African Heritage Resource Agency did not have the legal grounds to block the sale. The items, around 17 totals, were set to be exported to the United States for auction. They include personal belongings such as a cell key from Robben Island, where Mandela spent 18 years in prison, a pair of sunglasses, and one of his floral shirts. Other items listed for sale are a signed copy of South Africa's 1996 Constitution, a tennis racket Mandela used while imprisoned, drawings, identifications documents, and gifts from world leaders including former US President Barack Obama and his wife Michelle. The objects belong to Mandela's eldest daughter Makaziwa Mandela and Krista Brand, a former Robben Island prison warden who later became close to Mandela. The Heritage Resource Agency argued that the items were part of South Africa's national heritage and should not be sold or taken out of the country.
The United States has pledged to deliver long-awaited military equipment to Nigeria, a significant boost for the nation's fight against armed groups. The commitment was announced on Friday following high-level talks in Abuja. The materials include drones, helicopters, and support systems, purchases outstanding for 5 years. The meeting also addressed Nigeria's U.S. designation as a country of particular concern for religious oppression, a diplomatic issue now transforming into security cooperation. This shift was seen late last month when U.S. forces conducted airstrikes on Nigerian soil, targeting an Islamic State affiliate. Just last Sunday, over 150 worshippers were abducted from churches in Kaduna State, with kidnappers now demanding motorcycles as ransom. The government insists its security forces have clear order to protect communities and respond to threats. Nigeria's Information Minister Ibrahim Idris stated the partnership with the U.S. is, in his words, working.
The United States left the World Health Organization on Thursday with an official saying it had strayed from its core mission and acted contrary to American interests. But public health officials have criticized the move, saying it'll disadvantage the US's ability to respond to health crises.
Global health is
ABC News app or visit the website.
Today, communities prepare as Tropical Cyclone Luana strengthens as it tracks towards the northwest Kimberley coast. As parts of Australia swelter with a severe heatwave taking hold. Police in the New South Wales Central West widened their search for suspected triple murderer Julian Ingram.
He obviously could be accessing people, and we're obviously making contact with known associates.
A search and rescue operation turns to recovery after human remains are found at a New Zealand landslide site. And Alex de Minaur powers through to the rounds of the Australian Open. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Melissa McKay. Residents in WA's West Kimberley are being warned to prepare for days of wild weather as tropical cyclone travels towards the coast. But the Bureau says this is forecast to destruction and flooding. Reporter Rachel Jackson joins us now from is tracking about 175 kilometres north of us here, Broome. It is still classed as a Category 1 intensity, but we do know that the cyclone is expected to intensify as it tracks closer to the coast. At the moment, we are expecting for it to make landfall as a Category 2 system around the top of the Dampier Peninsula here, but that won't happen until later this evening. After that, it is then, that should have been later this afternoon, and then after that, it's supposed to track southeast towards Derby around 11 p.m. tonight. At its peak, the Weather Bureau does expect the cyclone to bring damaging wind gusts up to 140 kilometres per hour as it approaches the Kimberley coast. Residents across the Kimberley are also being told to accept that heavy winds and heavy rainfall is expected to increase, and there is a risk of flooding from large parts of northern WA. The warning zone does remain for communities from Broome to Koori Bay, which includes Derby and adjacent inland areas. There's also now an emergency warning in place for the area between Coolum Point Nature Reserve and Cape Leveque. Emergency services are advising anyone in this area to take shelter now. We do know that cyclones have passed through these remote communities before, and when they do, they can cause significant damage, whether that be to power lines or trees. They even have the potential to uproot roofs from houses as well. So the key messages from emergency services is for residents to stay up to date.
The headline news this hour: the US, Ukraine and Russia hold three-way talks for the first time, with hopes that 2 days of negotiations in the UAE will yield a breakthrough in war. Tough positions remain, though, with territory the key hurdle. Washington tightens the screws on Iran, sanctioning a fleet of 9 ships and their owners. This after President Donald Trump said that an armada was headed for the region, and the UN Human Rights Council demanded an end to what it called the brutal repression in the country.
The only way out of this
Frightening escalation is through dialogue based on the human rights of all Iranians. The aspirations and ideas, in particular of women, girls, young people, and shape. A call for governments to reject the outcome of Myanmar's election. The special rapporteur for the country says the polls are a sham ahead of the final round of voting tomorrow. And a massive winter storm begins to sweep across the U.S. with more than 185 million people in its path. Dozens of declared people to be prepared and the CNA.
This is Asia Now.
It's 11 a.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong. In Jakarta, I'm Keith Liu. At this hour, the Pentagon unveils a new defense strategy that refocuses on homeland security. It urges allies to take more responsibility as the U.S. seeks to prevent China from dominating the Indo-Pacific. Washington sanctions 9 ships linked to Iran as President Donald Trump warns the U.S. Armada is heading to the region, and the UN demands an end to what it calls brutal repression.
The only way out of this frightening escalation is through dialogue based on the human rights of all Iranians. The aspirations and ideas, in particular of women, girls, young people, and ethnic and religious minorities, must be allowed to shape Iran's future.
And the UN Special Rapporteur for Myanmar has urged governments to reject the outcome of the country's election, calling the polls a sham ahead of the final round of voting tomorrow.
Welcome to Night Watch. I'm Charlotte Lamb, and these are your top stories. Icing out ICE. A new wave of demonstrations hit Minnesota and other U.S. cities, protesting the Trump administration's immigration crackdown. In Minneapolis, businesses closed their doors for the day, and students staged walkouts as activists flooded the streets, calling for the federal agency ICE to leave the city. Outrage and deep offense across Europe after President Donald Trump angers NATO allies after belittling their role in Afghanistan, saying they avoided the front lines. The UK leader slammed his US counterpart, calling the comments insulting, but the White House has rejected the criticism. And the first round of trilateral talks involving US, Russian and Ukrainian officials in Abu Dhabi have concluded, with the future of the Eastern Donbass region still unresolved.
This is DW News live from Berlin. Russia, Ukraine and the US meet in Abu Dhabi for talks about ending Russia's invasion. These are the first known direct trilateral talks since Russia launched its invasion of Ukraine nearly 4 years ago. Also on the program, 160 million Americans get ready for Storm Fern, with heavy snow and freezing rain expected to cause power outages and major travel disruption across the southern and eastern United States. And Germany says this is the businesswoman who used her job to meet Berlin's top brass and then pass military information to Russia.
Thank you for watching Ahmed Shakil 5858. I am Ahmed Shakil. I hope you will visit again. Have a good life. Bye-bye.